Hey there everyone, welcome back to the Game Vault. As always, I'm Captain Beefy, and this is the first video in a new series. It kind of picks up where the captain's log and I think stupid gaming news in the past and stuff like that. It kind of picks up where those two end, and it's going to continue forward from there. I'm going to call it the fall of Western civilization. We're going to talk about all things gaming, movie related, culture related, and look at how just certain things are being impacted in all these industries and in culture in general. So let's cue up to music and we'll get right to it. We're going to kick this entire thing off with an article from Kotaku, one of the worst internet gaming rags out there. I highly recommend not reading them. I'll read it for you so you don't have to. But the name of this is Police Department Worried Activision Would Sue Them Over Tone-Deaf Call of Duty Recruitment Ad. Let's get into this article and see what it's all about. So it was updated on 3/12/2024, a few days ago. The Peoria, Illinois Police Department, that used Call of Duty imagery and references to try and recruit new cops, were worried about Activision suing them, according to a new report from 404 Media. The publication obtained a redacted record of emails from the Peoria Police Department, who was discussing the ad campaign before it went live on social media and was swiftly taken down after blowback. Instead of using any images from Call of Duty, I didn't want to cross any legal lines with Activision. I thought I would use one of the pics from our own SWAT guys. Please let me know what you think and any changes you want. Read a February 21st email from crime analyst Jacob Mouchon to Police Chief Eric Echeverria, Officer Christopher Collins, and Officer Ryan Winkle. Mouchon sent another email an hour later, letting them know that he had made a few revisions after looking it over. As 404 Media reports, because of how the Peoria Police Department redacted these emails, it's unclear what those revisions were. In another email, Officer Collins wrote, "The second one is not popping up for me while I'm on the road, but I like redacted." So none of the emails share any concern over the gamification or glorification of police duty, according to Kotaku. So let's get on to the original story. It goes like this. A Peoria, Illinois Police Department tried to recruit new officers with a Call of Duty-inspired campaign on social media, and it was as tone-deaf as you'd imagine. The post, originally shared on the Peoria Police Department social media page, showed 3 white men posing with guns while wearing tactical gear. "Stop playing games and answer the Call of Duty," the post reads, and the Call of Duty portion of the poster is written in the same text as Activision's wildly popular and more than occasionally problematic first-person shooter franchise. The post immediately garnered a deluge of negative responses online. It was shared on the Peoria, Illinois subreddit and on Facebook by citizens of the central Illinois city, which has a population of more than 100,000 people. "I can't believe they actually had most likely multiple people look at this and say, 'That's what we need to drum up recruits,'" wrote one Redditor. A Facebook user who shared a recruitment poster wrote, "Literally aiming guns, but telling the children to put the guns down while you have all white men pointing theirs at whom." I hate Kotaku. I hate this world actually right now. But anyway, they then mentioned the more than 7-year-long missing persons case of Alexa Scott, a young black woman who went missing in September 2017, which is like totally unrelated to this, but you know, that's how people do things these days. They just argue something and they'll bring something else up that's totally unrelated because words. But anyway, according to the U.S. Census Bureau website, the city of Peoria has a population that's more than 50% white, with around 26% identifying as black. Are they black or are they just identifying as black? I don't know. Anyway, whatever. It was never my intention to offend any of our community members with the recruitment flyer that was posted on our Facebook page yesterday. It was simply a recruitment image I thought would appeal and connect to a younger generation. I take ownership of this and I sincerely apologize. Our goal is to recruit the best and most qualified officers for this police department in the most caring and respectful way. That's what Chief Eric Echeverria posted in a statement apologizing to the Peoria Journal-Star. Okay. Now, there are several reasons why this ad should never have existed. Reasons that would be obvious to many of us who don't blindly back the blue. Again, a little more activism here in this article. First off, Call of Duty is largely a game about indiscriminately shooting a lot of predetermined bad guys, who are often brown. And American police are notoriously trigger happy. According to Mapping Police Violence, one of several sites attempting to collate instances of American police brutality, police killed 1,352 people in 2023, and so far in 2024, they're responsible for the deaths of 150. The site also states that in Illinois, black people are 6.6 times more likely to be killed by police than white people. Using Call of Duty, a game where shooting people makes a number go up, and that's a good thing, as a frame of reference for the overall vibe of your police department, is a nuclear bad look. Nuclear bad luck. That's silly. Okay. Then there's the poster itself, which clearly rips off Call of Duty font and the style of its promotional art. Kotaku reached out to Activision for comment, meaning they told on the police department, with the three officers in full tactical gear surrounded by orange-tinged smoke as if they're in the middle of a battlefield. This is not indicative of the average day on the job for your local cop. Police department special units are often composed of veteran officers with at least a semblance of military or tactical training, not fresh-faced high school graduates with a 3.0 kill-death ratio on Modern Warfare 3. And even if you eventually make it to a special unit, it's highly unlikely that you'll be spending your time on the task force in full military cosplay, surrounded by smoke, saving innocent lives. Plus, those units are as fallible as any other cop. Narcotics police are the ones who killed Breonna Taylor, remember? Yeah, I remember that narrative. Thirdly, the tone-deaf Call of Duty LARPing poster features 3 white guys on it, which isn't exactly welcoming for any people of color who may want to join the force. It certainly doesn't help allay the proven fears that white police officers disproportionately target black and brown folks, does it? The saddest part of all this is that it isn't the first time Call of Duty and other military-inspired games have been used as dubious recruitment methods. In 2022, it was revealed that the Army wanted to spend millions on ad campaigns across IGN and the Call of Duty Esports League. There was even an official U.S. Army Esports Twitch account, though their last saved highlight is from 4 years ago. The more we conflate games like Call of Duty with actual real-life jobs that hand you guns, the worse an already bad situation gets. I hope everyone's learned something today, especially the Peoria Police Department. Now they can go back to tabling at local college fairs in an attempt to recruit impressionable youth. It's kind of funny that Kotaku is a gaming journalist website, a gaming website with journalists. I'll use that term loosely here. They're more like activists for the most part. And it's kind of funny that they use this argument like the Call of Duty. I don't know, man. Like, there's always that argument that, these games lead to more violence amongst youth. They make the youth more violent. Millions and millions of people play video games. I mean, the number is astronomical now, right? I grew up on them from the 70s, well, the very late 70s on into modern times. They've been around. And a large portion of video games center around shooting, whether it be Army stuff, whether it be outer space, something. There is some semblance of violence in, I would say, probably 80 to 90% of video games, if not more. It's pretty high up there. I mean, granted, you got puzzle games and stuff like that, but most of it involves some kind of violence. Even if it's a yellow ball, waka, 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 eating ghosts, there's some sort of violence in there. And if they really inspired violence, then the whole world would be every child would be a psychotic at this point, because of how much we get exposed to it. Kids can, you can be exposed to these things and understand the difference between reality and, what's real and what's not real. But this day and age, a lot of people don't get that anymore. And that's part of the reason I think that the video game industry is suffering as much as it is right now. I mean, we've watched layoff after layoff after layoff occur, and, these big studios are just dropping people left and right. Games are failing miserably. So it's funny that Kotaku uses this argument that about conflating games like Call of Duty with a job that hands you guns, right? Like that's an issue, and it's kind of funny because that's like always been an argument for people that want to restrict video games. Oh, it teaches kids to be violent, right? I grew up on video games. I played video games since the 70s on up, and even the earliest games involved some sort of violence, whether it was, shooting apart asteroids and asteroids, shooting each other in tanks with combat, or I forget what the one with the cowboy one was on the old Atari. But there was always some sort of competitive edge to these things. And always some sort of violence, right? And as the games got better and graphics improved and all that, and the realism kind of crept into it, you went from these, a flat board with space invaders coming down while you're shooting up at them to, a first-person thing where you're walking through holding a gun and, going through doorways and checking your corners and all that. Yeah, things have changed mightily since then, but, there's no games don't contribute to violence amongst kids and all that. It's just that's a ridiculous assessment. In fact, there's no proven study on that whatsoever. In fact, a lot of people say that games are good for kids. They teach them problem solving abilities, and there's a lot going on in video games. Hand-eye coordination, stuff like that. You get a sense of community playing with other people. How to build, how to strategize, different things like that. It's there's a lot to it, but this article is just silly. Now let's talk about let's you kind of went off on a tangent there. There's so much going on. We're going to go into all these different aspects of gaming and a lot of things that I see going on within the gaming community. We're going to touch on over the next few weeks and kind of grow from there. But tell me what you think about this poster, and we'll put it on the screen right now. Take a closer look at it. But what do you think of this thing? I mean, it's all right. It's three white guys, right? Okay, no big deal. Two of the guys, you can see their faces. One guy, you can't even see his face. He might be, he might just have a light glove on for all we know. Who knows? Or just be whatever. But all right, it's three white guys on there. It's a cheesy looking poster. I will grant you that. Definitely cheesy. I know it's 2024 and every picture that you post these days has to have a person of color in it, has to have a woman in it, has to have somebody from the LGBTQ community in it and all that. White guys need not apply basically anymore. That's the irony of all this, right? The three guys that are represented in that picture are the ones that nobody wants in the picture. And that's, and Kotaku has pointed out the color of these guys several times in this article, and that's just silly. I don't look at it and see three white guys. I look at it and see three cops. Three cops dressed up like SWAT or whatever you want to call it there, and and it's cheesy. Yeah, the orange and the smoke and all that. It's very, very cheesy. Activision suing them. I highly doubt Activision's going to sue them over that. I mean, can you sue over a font like that? I don't know. I use a lot of fonts in my videos and stuff like that, where I'll take the font of a specific video game and use it when I do the titles and stuff like that. Can I get sued for that? I don't know. It's silly, If they get sued for being cheesy, yeah, I can see it. I mean, the guy on the left, look at him. It looks like, Call of Donuts there. But let's look at the history of Call of Duty, right? Now, I'm not talking about the game, but I'm talking about the actual phrase of it. And I think it was first coined... first used commonly like in advertising and all that way back in World War One, and we'll take a look at a poster from there. Let me pull that up here. All right, so here we have a poster from World War One, the call to duty. Join the army for home and country. So not Call of Duty, but the call to duty. Adapted from the sculpture by, I can't read the name, Camille, something like that. The Mayor's Committee on National Defense. So this is the kind of advertising you saw back in the day. And we've seen this throughout history in the U.S. as people try to, for recruiting for the armed services and all that. Uncle Sam with the I want you to join the U.S. Army. It's been a big part of our country and the history of our country since time immemorial. So this is how far back it goes. Millennials and all that, the people that are crying about this sort of thing here with Peoria, think that history only goes back like 10 or 15 years. They don't realize that history goes back as far back as history goes. You know what I mean? They just look at life like since 2020 and or 2000 and on. No, there was a whole lot going on way before then, guys. So get your heads out of your asses on this kind of stuff. And if we look even further back, and we go to, and I'll show you right here. This is an example of the Medal of Honor, the highest accolade you can receive in the armed forces in the United States. And it clearly states here, and this is something that was authorized by an act of Congress in 1863, but the United States of America, to all who shall see these, presents greeting. This is to certify that the President of the United States of America, authorized by the act of Congress on March 3rd, 1863, has awarded in the name of the Congress the Medal of Honor to whoever the recipient is, for conspicuous gallantry and intrepidity at the risk of his life above and beyond the call of duty in action with the enemy. And this one happened to be relating to something that happened in World War II, April 21st, 1945. So, yeah, that's how far back it goes. This is the Medal of Honor, which ironically is another video game that you can play that's very warlike, Medal of Honor series. But yeah, so it's just a silly argument for Kotaku to make that the reason that it's bad is because it's 3 white guys on it. That's stupid, and I get tired of hearing that. I'm tired of the media and the government and everybody else trying to put each other against each other based off of things like their race or their sexual orientation or their gender or whatever, male versus woman, black versus white, straight versus gay. It's stupid. It's really stupid. And articles like this just don't help that at all. They just help further that divide, and they feed off of it. And I know why they do it. They do it for clicks, right? They do it for clicks because they know it's going to get those rage clicks. People are going to be in there like, I hate you, Kotaku. It annoyed me. I'm not rage clicking it, but I am going to talk about it. I'm going to call them out on it because of that. It's absolutely, absolutely silly, and it's just got to stop. We're never gonna come together as a country as long as we keep these journalists keep bringing us apart. And yeah, it's horrible. So, anyways, let me know your thoughts down below in the comments. Do you think that Peoria should be sued by Activision? Do you think they are racist because because that's the implication here. That's what they've implied, is that they're racist because of the lack of representation in there, right? That's the implication. But do you think they're racist because of it, or do you think it's just plain old cheesiness, goofiness, and it's kind of like cringe, I get why they did it. Video games appeal to a lot of people. Video games appeal to young guys quite a bit, and a lot of people that they would want to recruit into the police force are at an age right now they're playing video games, right? They could be teenagers in high school getting ready to graduate. Maybe they're not sure what they want to do, go into the academy when they get out. And quite frankly, if you're playing Call of Duty and you've been playing it for quite a while, you probably have a pretty good understanding of a lot of different firearms, and at least in theory, you haven't handled them and all that, but in theory, and you know how to work with teams and stuff like that, you probably have an advantage over the regular schmo that doesn't do any of that and hasn't tried any of that out. So, yeah. All right, guys, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. Thanks for joining me, everyone. As always, Captain Beefy with the Game Vault. If you haven't done so, please subscribe to the channel. Ring that bell for notifications. Don't forget to leave a like on the video. I'll see you next time. Until then, peace.